Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Seasonal Tokens Podcast, where Polar interviews people so you can do more investing and less gambling.
Hello everyone, it is Polar here, the CMO of Seasonal Tokens. Welcome on another episode of the Seasonal Tokens Podcast. And today we have another special guest. We have Steve from the Blue Marble. So welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Polar. It's great to be here.
Thank you very much for accepting my invitation. Even though in the beginning I was going to talk with the other co-founder, but I'm happy to have you here. Yeah. So I'm happy that you have finally made it. Let's start the conversation with the first question that I always ask, which is like, can you introduce yourself and your background with a few words?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Steve. I'm one of the founders of the Blue Marble, and we are let me give you a bit of history. My history first. I worked in backbone architecture in the 90s, which was really interesting, and then got into the startup space 2003. I started a SaaS business 2007 in the recruitment space, and we built that business up. We exited that business last year, and I've done various other startup businesses during that time. Then, in terms of the blockchain world, that all started about 2017 with an organization, a business called Task.io, and we've been working with the Stellar and the Stellar community since 2018. And that's all led up to where we are now with the Blue Marble, which has evolved out the Task brand, where we're using NFTs to help brands connect more effectively with their customers. And we're looking at the world of NFTs, which has gone through its digital art, I guess, hype phase. And now we're in the next phase where people are saying, hey, this is really cool tech, but what's the sensible way that it's going to be applied? And of course, most of us in the NFT space are looking at it going, it's a real tip of the iceberg. The digital art, which has massive value, of course, is the tip of the iceberg, and we're all now exploring what's below the water. So that's a quick background of where I've come from.
So you are helping projects not to deal with cartoon NFTs, you mean?
Yeah, well, that is true. When you look at NFTs that are being published at the moment, and you can see the amount which are just coming straight out of AI generators, that's not doing the art world any favors. Though, you could argue ever since the color photocopier, it's been possible to take any picture and turn it into what you might describe as your piece of art. So the world that we're in is not new, but it is proliferating, and the digital world allows spam to proliferate. So we have a spam issue in that digital space, but it doesn't in any way degrade the opportunity and the quality of the technology that's there in the background.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you on this one. The NFT industry has evolved in a, let's say, better form of being more than just cartoon and AI-generated NFTs. By the way, I have seen an amazing AI-generated NFTs. Haven't seen such images, but AI is getting better and better in creating images. But you said that you have started as an entrepreneur in the startup world, and you have exited your company, which is amazing. I know the feeling. I have been able to do this twice, so congratulations to you. It's a great achievement, I believe, and the dream of every startup person and CEO and founder. So, but in the end, what has attracted you to Web3 when you have been that successful in the Web2 world?
When I look at Web3, the feeling I have is exactly the same as Internet 96. So I'm a bit long in the tooth. But if you were around and you're getting onto the Internet with a 28.8 modem and doing a dial-up. I worked in the music industry in the first half of the 90s, or just kind of tipping in to the second half. And in the last couple of years of being in that world, we're doing stuff like dial-up, where you could, there was a program called OnLive Traveler. I think it was initially released by Sony, and it then got purchased by someone else, and it never quite took off, but it was about virtual reality markup language. They created VRML, and we were having these experiences where we'd be on a dial-up modem, chatting to people around the world, where you had an avatar and you could float around in this virtual space and talk to people. And it was just amazing, the experience, that we're all going, my God, where are you? And, and of course it was a local telephone call. It seems like nothing now, but at the time it was amazing. It was this amazing new experience that we're having. The first time you did a Skype call, I mean, Skype is now this kludgy old school piece of software, but at the time when it first came out, it was amazing. It was this new release. And when you were at the internet, 98 was the Wild West, and it was so fun. Everyone was giving stuff away for free, and and there was this the ogre of future commerce coming. I mean, there was, when people were coming out with e-commerce shops, they didn't have SSL certificates. Everything's being sent plain text when people were checking out. And of course, there was big trust issues at the time. Which kind of connects to some of the problems we've got today. But my point is that it was a Wild West, and it was such fun because we knew that as time went on in the next 5 to 10 years, it would solidify and become something. And so for me, when I look at things like Web3 and NFTs, the whole blockchain space, it's about, okay, we're right at the beginning. It is the Wild West. And what can we create in the next 5, 10 years? And what I do know is that similarly to being a part of that movement when the internet was coming on, and you could go to conferences, and at the conference you could see the person who invented SMTP protocol, the protocol that everyone uses for sending an email to someone else. These people are wandering around, you're meeting them, and we have the same thing now with blockchain, where these people exist who are creating the the layer 1 chains and the layer 2 chains, which are going to be around in 50 years' time. That's really, really exciting.
Yeah, so you're absolutely right about the difficult beginning phase of the internet and the difference, or actually the different world that we are living right now in. So if I'm understanding you right, you are excited, really excited about the future of Web3, and this is what has actually attracted you to it, right?
Well, I suppose there's a proliferation of opportunity. When I say opportunity, I don't mean it just from a opportunistic point of view, but for new models, which, if activated the right way, can create amazing outcomes. So, for example, one of my big drivers of wanting to get into the blockchain space was how you could use it around environmental missions, environmental impact. So what we do know is that the current models don't work. There's incentive schemes where forests are being cut down, they're being mowed down as we speak. There's lots of bad stuff going on because the incentive schemes that we have in the world are not good. They're creating the wrong results. And we find ourselves in a world where there's loads of issues that need fixing, and the current ways of trying to fix it, which might be through politicians or something, they are not going to work. Most of us have reached the point where we understand that what's going on at the moment is unsustainable and isn't going to work. And I think for a lot of us, when we look at blockchain, that's what we hope it can fix, because I think one of the big errors that you have when people look at blockchain, they say, oh, wow, we're going to create a new Facebook and it's decentralized. And I don't think that's the case. Facebook exists, it's centralized, and it works in this centralized fashion. And like it or hate it, it has a role to play, and you can decide if you want to use it or not. But what will happen with blockchain is new applications will come, which just pull the rug from out under the incumbents. And they will be different models which create a better experience and that start to replace existing systems. And so what I'm excited about is when we look at the big problems that we have in the world, is how can we fix that with blockchain solutions, which just give us the right incentives and the right results and cut out the middleman and automate processes and systems so that we end up with what we're trying to achieve as a group of people, whatever that group is defined as.
But one thing that very interests me is how actually loyalty programs fit into your vision of this Web3 world.
So you're talking about customer loyalty, our focus on customer loyalty with NFTs. And that's very easy to explain. So, we are, as a business, we are very Web3 focused. But Web3 to date has been pretty inaccessible to most people who are not inside the crypto space. And even people inside the crypto space are having lots of problems with finding out that they've lost their cash because they sent it to the wrong address or whatever it happens to be. So, we see ourselves as spending the next few years helping to bridge the divide between Web 2 and Web 3. And with the Blue Marble being focused on NFTs, the question is, how do you get an NFT into the pocket of someone and give them an experience which makes them want to learn more? And there are many ways you can answer that question, but one of the first ways is to look at customer loyalty and allowing businesses to use NFTs as a way that they can give collectibles through to their client base. Now, the beauty about the NFT and where it becomes very, very different to a traditional customer reward or loyalty program is once your customer owns that NFT, that's sitting there in a publicly accessible wallet address and can be used by the business owner or partners of the business owner to start providing different services through to that customer. So now brands can start to bunch together and they can say, well, if so-and-so owns this NFT, we'll all give them discounts, or we'll all give them the ability to access this content, or they can come to this physical event. The beauty is that you're giving someone an asset which can be used to unlock a myriad of different options as they go into the future. So for us, why we focus on loyalty is because we see it as a first stepping stone to the customer getting this NFT. And then as a business, we can say, hey, you got this NFT. Would you like to learn more about Web3? And they can go, no, thanks. I just want rewards. And we go, no problem. But for someone who says, yeah, I'd like to learn more, we go, great. Well, here you go. So everything we do at the moment, we begin believing the customer needs to have a custodial wallet experience so that we are setting that up for them so they don't have to think. But we do want to make sure that they can migrate to a full Web3 non-custodial wallet experience as well. So you give those tools there for people to always be able to look after their own keys. But if we want to break outside the crypto space, there's no way I'm going to be able to get my dad to be thinking about storing seed phrases or private keys. And he has as much right to be inside the space as anyone else has. And I think opening up accessibility is important. So customer loyalty, customer rewards, it's a kind of first step from Web 2 to Web 2.1, where you are allowing people to start accessing and also understanding the utility of NFTs beyond just digital art.
Yeah, so what you're saying reminds me really much to the case with Reddit and their avatar NFTs that they have sold. Right. Like, if I'm not wrong, something like about 3 million sales of these avatars have been done to people that don't know anything about NFTs in the end. They have compared them with OpenSea, the biggest NFT marketplace, and they mentioned that actually they have made more sales than OpenSea during their existence and for a much shorter period of time. So I suppose you're following this very successful example, even though you have started before Reddit even started this campaign. But if I also understand you right, this is your way of actually making Web3 more mass adopted, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be relevant to existing businesses. I mean, if the only play for Web3 is, hey, we're going to invent a new blockchain with a particular application, and you're essentially becoming the decentralized monopoly of an application, so to speak. There's one winner of, say, file storage eventually. Let's say that's okay, and that is very valid in terms of, I think, people creating their own chain which addresses a particular use case and going after that market, and that's great. But I think there's also an importance for a Web3 based organization like ourselves to be relevant to existing businesses, to provide them services, and to give them a way of being onboarded into the Web3 world. And that's what we're doing. So it's I don't think we want to be. There's enough people that are trying to invent the next chain for whatever it is, but we're really interested in being relevant and helping businesses, because we need, as a business, you do need revenue. If you don't have revenue, you're not a business, you're a project, and you just go bankrupt. So I think one of the issues I sometimes see in the Web3 community is people are getting very excited about the ideologies, but not really thinking about the pragmatics of how you're going to run a sustainable business. And there's no point going out with something that's going to save the world if you're going to be bust in 6 months. So I think a lot of what we're doing at the moment as well is understanding that there is a 5 to 10 year time frame of adoption, and making sure that you're relevant. You're going to be relevant in different ways over that 5 to 10 year period. And right now, in the next 24 months, it's important to really almost be a SaaS business. We talk about providing Web3 as a service. To do that to businesses so they can onboard into Web3. But our positioning and the value we provide to businesses can change in, say, 2, 3, 4 years as there's a paradigm shift in terms of the adoption. So it's just taking baby steps to get there, and doing it in a way where you can have a business that is going to survive and be one of the players that are out there in 10 years' time.
Yeah, that all sounds really great. So you are helping to those that are already in the crypto, and those that want to join the crypto as investors, let's say, but also to companies that want to implement Web3 in their businesses. But I'm really interested to know, is there already a good amount of interest from Web2 companies to implement the service that you're currently offering, or it is still in the, let's say, education and growing phase?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the latter. There's two distinct personas. You've got the crypto enthusiast that happens to be inside a business and wants to make something happen, Web3, with their business. And then you've got everyone else who is going, well, what the hell is this stuff and why should I care? So education is key. And that's a lot of what we're going to be doing as a business over the next year or two, is providing a lot of educational content to support the customers we work with. But there is a obviously, and now with the markets more than ever, there is a hardcore base community, and those are the people that we want to connect with, because we have to demonstrate real world, useful, with long-term value use cases around fungible and non-fungible tokens, which command the respect of the non-crypto community, because they can look at it and go, yeah, we get it, we understand it. No one's being ripped off. I mean, obviously at the moment we have a centralized issue with things like FTX. It's not a crypto issue, it's a centralized issue. But yeah, we just need to be pushing that education, because a lot of people just don't understand what this is all about.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I suppose that some of our listeners will be very interested to know what are actually the differences between a standard, let's say, modern Web2 loyalty program and a Web3 loyalty program that, for example, you're offering.
The easiest thing is to look at something, look at an existing one, and let's take airline points. So you go on a flight, you go with a particular airline. Now they do have a bit of crossing over now, but typically you're getting points and you're locked into one ecosystem. And the beauty of a public blockchain-based reward system that would use NFTs in our case is that becomes open, and it also becomes tradable. There is no secondary market for trading things like your airline points. Well, NFTs open that as something that you can then trade and other people can purchase off you. It's also open, so anyone can say if you have a certain amount of points of X, they can decide to do something. So it's a instantly open system where I think when we look at so much of these technological innovations, what's happening is it's allowing the smaller players to do what used to only be open to the bigger players. So, for example, 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to do a trade, you had to call a stockbroker and have a certain net worth. Now you need $5 in a Binance account and you can start trading. So with the opportunity around loyalties and rewards is that small businesses, taking the airline points, idea, a small business can get together with 1,000 other small businesses and say, let's all have our own loyalty system, which everyone, we have a number of assets that we agree on, NFTs, which we're going to be providing to our customers. And then let's just cross market. So as small businesses, we can become as powerful as Amazon because we're creating an ecosystem where the rewards for our customers are pushing them across to our respective brands, and we're working as an ecosystem together. So, you can break out of the limitations of something like airline points by allowing smaller businesses to gain huge amounts of leverage. It's really a different world, but it requires the building up a community and different angles of use cases on how you use these NFTs.
If I understand you right, there are actually a lot of benefits for the end customer, because in the end he will get a lot more than just air points, right? He will be able, or she will be able to get, for example, discounts for stores, also opportunities to go and purchase a free iPad, for example, or a free book or something like that with just one NFT.
Yeah, I think there's a different way to look at it, which is if you take something like, let's take a educational degree. Let's say, you got a degree. I got a degree doing psychology in Manchester. Now, that was a long time ago. But if at the time they give me an NFT, which I've now got that NFT, it's in my wallet, and it says, you've got a psychology degree from Manchester. That's been sitting there. It's now been sitting there for quite a few years, unfortunately. But anyway, it's sitting there. What could have happened in all my time since getting that degree is I got marketed to in some way by companies that are saying, oh, by the way, if you happen to have a psychology degree from Manchester, we're doing a partnership. I live in Thailand now, so doing a partnership with people in Thailand, which means you can now get access to our partners out here because you happen to have that thing that you got a couple of decades ago. So it's about, you now have that. Now that degree certificate sitting on a blockchain somewhere, that could have been really useful as well when I was trying to get a job. And my CV was just a link through to somewhere that couldn't be faked. That shows that I had had that degree. So what I'm trying to say is it's very, very multifaceted in terms of, what we've got is digital certification that's linked to someone that can't be faked. And there are so many ways in which you can then use that with value to provide value to that person. And of course, brands need to sell more stuff. And therefore, loyalty programs are going to be one of the interesting areas of the use of NFTs. But it's multifaceted. You can end up now, of course, and this will probably happen, but when you have sponsorship at universities and brands are trying to get into the students, in my day, it was all about the banks coming and giving you a free account so they could try and get you into some debt and then keep you as a customer long term. That world will change where the students are being enticed with particular NFTs that will open up different discount options, and it will be it is a much bigger it has much bigger opportunity in terms of growing out a loyalty system where you could connect with someone for the rest of their life after they take a degree at your university because they have this one NFT that they were awarded from you. So I'm blathering a little bit, so I'll stop talking. However, there's much opportunity to grow out of how you can use this technology because it's about digital certification at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it will be really beneficial for everyone to have something that can give them more than what they expect. The only thing that worries me in your example is that someone can be able to sell his or her educational certificate to someone that hasn't gone through the 5 or 6 or 4 years of education in the end. But I suppose this is a way that can be solved really easy.
You don't have to worry about that. You have, I mean, if we take Stellar that we work on, you can create any sort of different policy around the asset. And once you've set policies, you can then lock accounts where you're effectively making it so that even the original private key of that asset is, can't make any changes. So it's pretty simple to come up with a blockchain registry which can't be tampered with. And the whole point of this actually is that no one will be able to ever sell a degree. The only way you'll be able to get a degree is to get one from an institution where they're going to provide you with a blockchain certificate that can't be faked. So you get rid of all that fraud. I mean, that's the big benefit here.
Yeah, I thought so, but I just wanted to bring it out because some people may be thinking that there will be a way to scam the world with fake certificates from universities. This won't be available, I think. So it's great that you have been part of the crypto industry for that long. And I suppose that you have been able to learn a lot also as a CEO in these projects about crypto investing. So do you think that actually being a CEO in a Web3 project has somehow affected your crypto investing style or way of thinking in what to invest and what not to invest in?
It's a good question. I don't possibly, but I think the overall education of developing your crypto portfolio and trading. I think I was mentioning to you earlier before we started the podcast that I got into crypto 2017 as we were just having that amazing kind of gold rush, and everyone was going, "My God, you got to climb aboard." And then idiots like me did that and promptly lost all our money in 2018 and thought, "Oh, this isn't much fun." So went through that pain, and I'm also pleased to say held through that pain until we had the next bull run. So unlike, I have to say, some people I know that bought around the peak of end of 2017, beginning of 18, and then about 6 months into 18, I met up with them and said, "I've sold everything, I want out of this." And a few years later, I was thinking they did a terrible mistake there. So anyway, I think when it comes to the attitude around how you would trade and hold crypto, it's been an ongoing education which has happened in parallel as to while I've been using it for business applications. What I will say is that from working on business level applications and working with customers where we've implemented various blockchain systems for them, the value that's inside the crypto space is huge. The value that's inside the pump and dump space is clearly not huge and is very damaging to the industry. So the one thing that I can say that I've drawn from my experience of using it to build a business is that it is here to stay. It has amazing use, and that's great. So when it comes to the credible blockchains, if you're going to be holding onto those, then you're going to be doing absolutely fine. He said infamously.
Yeah, I think that it's great to be part of Web3, so you can definitely see that crypto is not only these pump and dumps that you mentioned, it is a lot more, and it is not only cryptocurrencies, it is a lot more. But this is something that most of the people don't see when they're outside, because they believe that crypto is only cryptocurrencies, investing, you are succeeding or failing, and there isn't something more than just this. So, except the things that I just mentioned, do you think that there are some other common myths about Web3 and crypto investing that you have noticed in, let's say, ordinary people?
If there's some common threads,
Common mistakes or myths?
common mistakes. Well, I've pretty well done them all, so yes. I think there is one of the big problems that we have, which you touched on, which is that there's the famous trader story from years ago, and I believe it's a true story. I'm not sure who did it and when, but someone decided they want to get paid a lot for trading the market. So they find the 1,000 most wealthy people in New York or in the States, whatever it is, and they send to 500. They send them an email saying tomorrow the market's going up, and to the other 500 tomorrow the market's going down. And of course they're right 50%, and then they split it and repeat it again, split it and repeat it again. And after a couple of weeks, they're down to 10, 20, 30 high net worth individuals who think that this person who's sending them emails is a absolute marketing or market predictions genius. And they then give them all their cash, thinking that they know exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. But the point is, they didn't. It was just using numbers to group down and articulate this, fabricate this message that they're successful when it was all just luck and a roll of the dice. And I think we have that a lot in crypto. So, for example, the idea of social trading platforms seem very tempting, but you are seeing the effect that I just described on those platforms, except multiplied by a million, because you've got people setting up profiles, could even be for a couple of years, and they're going out and you're seeing 1,000x return and all this sort of stuff. And it's just heavy margin traded people who have managed to keep going. And what you don't see is, of that 0.01% of people with their 1,000x stats, you don't see the trail of all the profiles that tried to do it and have disappeared with people's money as they leveraged your cash out of existence. And it seems so tempting to say, hey, well, here's an easy way of doing it. They know how to do it. I'll leave it to them. And they will invariably go pop, and you're going to lose all your money. So the social trading world for me, what I've learned about trading, and everyone tells you this who's traded for a long time, is the only way to trade is to learn how to trade and to find your own style. And of course, honor rules like, plan your trade and then trade your plan, which no one does. Most people don't do it. If you're going to enter a trade, obviously you're going to have a risk. That means you're going to have a stop loss. How much of your portfolio you're risking on any single one trade. It's really, really simple stuff that you have to learn yourself. And it seems so tempting, the idea that you could outsource it to someone that somehow has the magic. They've got this magic where they just know what's going to happen. And these social trading platforms want you to think that's the case. And I think it is one of the best ways of losing your hard-earned cash. So I think I would steer clear of social trading.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm hearing this explanation for social trading for the first time. I haven't thought that much about social trading, and honestly, I haven't also heard the story about this trader that you mentioned. It's really interesting and it makes sense. So it's all great, and I suppose those that are just starting in crypto right now, they believe that we have been somehow lucky to be that early in the crypto space, but hasn't somehow the current event of FTX shaken your belief in crypto investing, and hasn't this somehow changed your crypto investing strategy?
I think it's made everyone wake up to being careful of a central custodian of your keys. So not your keys, not your coins, which you see going around Twitter, etc. That's the truism. I mean, FTX is corporate failure, and it's centralized. And I see everyone calling out SBF, and I forget the name of his colleague who was the CEO of Almeida, I think is the name of it. My question is, what were the board of directors doing, and what were the investors doing that should have been managing? They've got a young management team, CXO team, who are being left to go off and do the most crazy things. And it's in no way a failure of crypto. It's a failure of a very greedy CXO team who went over leveraged. And they should have, the whole point of having a board of directors in a business is to have the older people checking out the younger people, the people with more experience, looking over what the management team's doing and saying, you can't do that. So FTX has no relation with what crypto offers. It is just a big reminder, which is, of course, to unless you're going to be actively trading, then there is no need for you to be keeping any of your assets on centralized exchanges. And if you look at what's happened with people like, I think, Hodlnaut and BlockFi and many of the centralized saving investment funds, or providing you a savings account, you have to look at the APR and understand that that's not typically how the world works. So if it's too good to be true, it probably is too good to be true. And I think people have got to just wake up and understand that. All you've got to do, it's really simple, is you've got to hold high quality coins, of which obviously BTC and ETH are the safest of the bets, and you can decide what your appetite for risk is when you go out onto the smaller cap coins. But you got BTC and ETH, and you're going to store it in cold storage, and you're going to leave it. And it's quite simple, really. If you want to grow wealth in what's going on at the moment, then less is more. And there's loads of stats around the more trades that people do, typically the less money they earn. They manage to gain. Yeah, it's keep things simple, and FTX is going to be something that should wake people up to the value of decentralized systems and the madness of handing over all your assets to a centralized organization that can go bust.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you that FTX is actually a failure of centralized exchanges. It's definitely not a failure of crypto. Like we said in the conversation, crypto is much more than that. Like, crypto is not centralized exchanges. It's not scams, frauds, and things like that. Crypto gives a lot of opportunities, like we said, for doing loyalty programs by using NFTs and many other stuff. So for all of our listeners that are thinking of joining the crypto space, what do you think are the first steps that a beginner crypto investor should take in order to increase his or her chances to become a successful crypto investor?
Investor or trader?
Investor.
I think the best way to become a good investor is number one, forget about leverage. Don't worry about margin trading. It seems so simple. Just get a cold wallet set up and really focus on making sure that there is no way you're ever going to lose your private keys. Just get that base, because that's your bank. You are your bank. So make sure that you as your bank is not going to be like that guy that's currently looking through landfill waste in the UK somewhere because he left a load of Bitcoin in a hard drive he threw away and it went to the garbage. Anyway, make sure that you have a firm base there. I think the other thing that I would suggest is understand the 4-year cycle. There's a guy called Bob Lucas who I like a lot. I'm not affiliated with them at all. I'm a customer. But Bitcoin.live are a group of 5-6 really high quality analysts. If you take someone like Bob Lucas, he's really focused on the 4-year cycle. And there's a 4-year cycle. Since the beginning of Bitcoin, we've had an average 4-year cycle in terms of peaks and troughs. And if you understand that, just at that basic level from a trading point of view, you can understand when it's the time to accumulate and when it's the time to be moving your funds, some of your funds, back to, or some of your Bitcoin, say, back to a stable coin while you wait for the next 4-year cycle to begin. And what's now going on as we've got more institutional investment is the extremities of that 4-year cycle are starting to flatten out a little bit, but it's still pretty big. I mean, we've had about an 83% retracement since the 64K peak. I forget the exact figure, but we're starting to hit a pretty big retracement, but it's not quite as much as it was last time. I think it was 90% last time, if I remember rightly. So,
yeah, something like that.
So understanding the cycles, but for people listening out there, the boredom is, 4 years? Oh my God, that sounds like a long time, But I think if you go into it, I really think if you go in without thinking this is a get-rich-quick scheme and is one of the biggest opportunities that you'll ever have to accumulate sensible wealth, and forget about having to have everything and driving silly cars. Think about having some security and being able to look after your kids and do some cool stuff that you want to do with your life. That's what it should be about. So if you don't get greedy and just sensibly accumulate and invest, understand the 4-year cycles, and don't give your keys away or your coins away to centralized entities, and you should be okay.
Sounds simple, but we saw that it's not that simple in the end. And
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, I think it is simple, actually. I think it's very, very simple. It's complicated by human emotion, and which is absolutely the opposite from simple.
Yeah, and we as humans, we love making things more complicated than they actually are. So you're right, it's simple, but we're people, we are not animals, so we have to make it complicated. Otherwise, it's not that fun, interesting, exciting. So, yeah.
But Polar, the definition of a good trader is someone that removes the emotion and executes quite simply. I mean, trading in itself is incredibly simple. What are you doing? Let's say you got $1,000, and your rule for trading then would be, as I'm sure lots of people know, which is you would have your risk. And let's say people talk about 1R, which would be 1% of your portfolio. You got $1,000. That means that the maximum your trade can be is going to be $10, 1% of that $1,000. So you're going to put out a trade. Maximum you can lose because you put in a stop loss is $10, and you know that there's many trades that can happen before you lose all your money. So we know that. So that's done. And then you're looking at your risk to reward, where you would do. So if you at least the worst trade is 1-to-1. I can lose $10 and I can gain $10. That's a bad trade. Now, most traders will say, well, 2-to-1 is your minimum. So you're going in basically saying, maximum I can lose is $10. In my trade, If I win, if I'm right, I'm going to get $20 back. And I'm going to fail more than 50% of the time. I'm going to be wrong more than 50% of the time. But the difference between that 1R and 2R two return, is what makes a trader profitable over time. So it's extremely simple and completely screwed up by humans who go in and think they know, but you don't know. You have to act like you're a machine.
Yeah, but we are unemotional creatures, and there are a lot of researches that actually show that even when we think that we are not acting emotionally, we are
Yeah.
actually acting emotionally. And I'm sure that you know that as a person that has studied psychology. So in the end, emotions are stopping us from a lot of successes in our life. So before we finish, there is one question that I'm really interested to find out the answer that you have for me, which is on this question: how do you think people can do more investing rather than gambling in crypto?
I would go back to what I said before, and it's go and Google Bob Lucas 4-year cycle and have a look at his information around the trends, understand the trends, and just go and learn that. Go and look at the history of the Bitcoin market since its incarnation. Understand those 4-year oscillations and understand where you are in that phase. Right now, apparently, I say apparently because I'm taking someone else's information, but we're just hitting the end of a 4-year cycle. We've had the bear market, and we're likely to be hitting the end of the 4-year cycle. Could be this year, could be next year. It's probably extended now because of the FTX fallout. We also don't know what other fallout's going to be coming out in the coming months. So we're now hitting a natural time. It's a beautiful time for accumulation. And if you haven't got mucked up with margin trading and FTX, go and accumulate in theory, not financial advice, etc. But now is a time in the 4-year cycle to be accumulating and then sitting back, relaxing, and letting things go up over a 2-year, 3-year period until we hit the next peak, which will, probably be, let's say, 24, 25, maybe 26. So, I can't really give you any answer other than go study high quality traders that know what they're doing, like Bob Lucas. Peter Brandt is another one who is superb. These are old school traders. They know what they're doing. They've come from a non-crypto background in trading, and they get rid of all the pump and dump conversation. They're helping you to really understand what the market's doing. When the answer to that question is no one knows what the market's doing, but here's how we can protect capital and make sensible investments, which long term you should do better than the market. That's what you hope.
Perfect. Yeah, listening to the right people and educating yourself from the right sources can definitely help you a lot with your crypto investing career. But like you said, also keeping your emotions out is also very important. So, Steve, I feel sorry that I have to say this, but it's time to finish this podcast episode, even though there are a lot of other things that I want to ask you. But are there any final words that you want to mention to our listeners that you believe can be beneficial for their crypto investing career?
I don't think so. I don't want to keep repeating myself. There is one. There is one, actually. So this is something that my dad would say, and it's an unfortunate truth. It is an unfortunate truth in the world of financial investing historically. If you went into property, you could expect to get a 4 or 5% yield on that property per year. And, you take it to the bank, you might get a couple of percent. If you were looking at investing, then 8% is typically seen as that's pretty good. We're talking about traditional financing world. As soon as you start going 10% to 12%, everyone in the financial world would say, well, that's got to be high risk, because that's the only way that you get 10, 12%. The only thing I'd end on saying is that whenever you're looking at something and you think you're going to 10x or 100x or anything like that, it flies in the face of everything that kind of humanity has understood over the last few thousand years of financial trading in terms of ROI. So the one thing I would say is, hey, if you hit your 10x, 100x, brilliant. But the only way that you'll do that is if you understand how to protect capital. And the only way that you'll protect capital is by not getting involved in Mickey Mouse schemes that promise the world and you end up losing everything. So just be really careful. And there's nothing wrong with taking small steps to increase your wealth over time with an investment. Much better to do that and have less money at the end than go and risk it all by rolling the dice in the casino and losing everything. So don't do that.
Perfect. I think that this is a great final of our conversation. But before I actually put the end of it, can you tell our listeners where they can find more about you, Steve, and your companies?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are thebluemarble.io, and our Twitter is thebluemarble.io. I'm on Twitter, Steve Walker, without an E between the K and the R. And if anyone wants to talk about not so much crypto, but I guess more customer loyalty, NFTs, and the world of NFTs, and please get in touch.
Perfect. Yeah. You can send me all the links that you want people to be able to easily access on the show notes by email, and I'll put them on the show notes so people can easily find more about your companies. So thank you very much again, Steve, for being a guest on my show. It was an amazing pleasure to have this conversation with you. And thank you very much to all of our listeners that have been with us so far. I truly appreciate your support, and I would be really grateful if you share this episode with your friends. I think that there is a lot of value in it. So thank you very much again. And I'm Power, the CMO of Seasonal Tokens, and I'll talk to you on the next episode. Bye.
Thank you very much.